Get lost in the acoustic brilliance of 3D audio that surrounds you. Feel the embrace of the massage seats that adapt to your every move. Experience the warmth of a vehicle that welcomes you as you approach. We could tell you what makes a Lincoln SUV so extraordinary, but don't take our word for it. Take it on a test drive at the Lincoln Summer Invitation with exclusive offers on now, only at your local Lincoln retailer.
Have you ever spotted McDonald's hot, crispy fries right as they're being scooped into the carton? And time just stands still. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Anjali Sharma, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant.
Whoa, that's refreshing.
And a 9.5 plus pH for every way you move.
I did take a Spain class today.
Restoring like a pro. Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
Running a business comes with a lot of what ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
It is a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Singapore. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about your recent book, Strategic Storytelling: Why Some Stories Drive Your Success at Work, but Others Don't. I love it. I love everything about the importance of storytelling. You know, we live in a data-rich world, a data-driven world, and so often we hear this term, you know, that we want to make data-driven decisions or data-informed decisions, which I believe in. Like, we want to be able to do that, but the reality is, it's the stories that really drive things. It's the stories that really make the difference, because we're human animals and we're so influenced by, you know, just our emotions. And it doesn't matter how much good data you have to be able to tell the story with the data. You have to be able to tell the story in a compelling way. Otherwise, you're really not going to be able to have the level of influence that you want to have, right? And so being able to learn how to tell compelling stories, it makes all the difference in the world. And, you know, in this particular context, we're going to be talking about storytelling in the workplace and as leaders, but really it applies to all walks of life. doesn't it? The ability to tell compelling stories, have influence. So this is what we're going to explore today and unpack together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Anjali's bio with everybody. Anjali is the founder of Narrative, the business of stories, and is one of the most sought after keynote speakers trusted by international brands seeking guidance on finding, developing, and using their stories to make a dynamic change and have that happen within organizations. Sharma works with private and government organizations to determine what their individual and unique business challenges are. And by incorporating story skills, she crafts individualized solutions to help solve those challenges. She is trusted by brands such as LinkedIn, Airbnb, ByteDance, TikTok, and Meta, among others. Anjali, anything you would like to highlight by way of your background, personal context before we dive on into the conversation?
No, that's all good. That's extensive enough what you have described.
Okay.
I'm very happy to answer questions that might help our listeners.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's start with a little bit of the backstory behind storytelling. So, I always like to ask authors why this book, why now? Writing a book is a labor of love, takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Why this book? Why was it so important?
Okay, so I this book came out in the year 2024, which is last year, and last year happened to be 10 years of me running our story practice called Narrative, the Business of Stories. Now, as the years were happening and I was working on one project after the other, so when I'm, for so that our listeners can understand this better, when I'm working on projects, what do I mean? So the only work that I do is within storytelling. So that would mean if an organization now wants every employee, irrespective of whichever function they work in, to start using AI models, and they would like me to build a story so that every employee feels motivated to want to venture into that space, that's a project where I would work directly with the president of the company and build that narrative as to why we need to have AI models, whether you're in customer service, whether you're in operations, whether you're in engineering, whether you're in sales, doesn't matter, but you all need to have AI models that you would use within your function. So year after year, I was doing these like lots and lots of projects, and what I was learning is that the most beautiful thing about storytelling is that it applies to everything, right? Whether I'm selling cookies or whether I'm selling an idea or whether I'm trying to communicate with my partner, storytelling applies to everything. And that is also one of the biggest disadvantages of it. Because it applies to everything, often you tend to use a story that would work in a certain place in another place and it doesn't work. So what I realized was that the world of workplace was very nuanced, very specific types of stories would work there. And I was like, but why is there no literature about that? Like, why is there no conversation about, everyone talks about stories being this way, that way, high character, high emotion, this, that. But when I stand in a boardroom and people are making a business decision, that exact style of storytelling would fail. So the answer to your question is that when I kept doing that work, I got to a stage where I started feeling the fear that I'm going to forget what I'm doing because it is so nuanced that I must really document it, not only for my purpose, but also make it like a scalable manual that others can use it also. And that was the thought behind why I wanted to write this book. And why now? The first book on storytelling from a work perspective got written back in 2004. So why in 2024, 24 years later, a new book needs to come out? It's the beauty of this book is in the number of case studies that exist. So in 2004, you wouldn't have a digital transformation case study where you applied storytelling. You wouldn't have a diversity, equity, and equality, inclusion case study where you applied storytelling. So the book is a compilation of my 10 years of work. So therefore, the case studies are all very, very recent and very, very relevant. That's why now and why the book.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Excellent. And thank you. I think it really, like I said on the outset, I think it's just a really important skill set for people to develop. Because I can't tell you, I mean, I'm sure you've been in this situation too. I can't tell you how many times I've sat through meetings where, I mean, there's really important information being conveyed, often really, really impressive, important data being shared, like really important decisions that have to be made based on the data. And yet the people sharing the information, it's falling on deaf ears, right? Like they couldn't tell a compelling story to save their life, you know. And so, like I just think this is a skill set that almost everybody needs to develop. The number of people I've experienced in my life that really just are able to draw you in, tell a compelling story, help you really understand the importance of something. It's a really small number. And I don't know if it's innate, like some people just have that skill, but I really believe it's something people can learn. It's something people can develop. And like you said, it's nuanced. And so there are different settings, there are different contexts where you need to be able to tell a different kind of story. And some people really get that, and some people are just really masterful at being able to do that and do that effectively, and they get results. They're able to have persuasive skill and drive the types of decisions that need to be made. And then others aren't. And it doesn't matter that they have all the data. Like, people may have all of the best data to drive the decisions that need to be made, but they can't tell the story. And so they just can't drive the decisions. And it's really frustrating, especially when like, I'm sitting in a room and I'm like, I know where the decision needs to go, but I'm not the one telling the story. And I'm just like so frustrated that I know that we're like going in the wrong direction. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in that situation. And I'm like, okay, now I need to get your book and I need to like gift it to all these people.
Yeah, that's a very common problem. You're absolutely right. You've mentioned this whole thing about data and stories a few times now. And I think one of the most beautiful lines I've read is that data is very good at telling us what is happening, but it's the stories that tell us why what is happening matters.
Yeah.
So, if you don't have a story, then it's just like, okay, that is what is happening, but I don't really care. It could happen. The care for the findings of the data only comes when you wrap a story around it. Now, the second thing I'd like to add, what you said, that some people are able to do it. It's no surprise then when I talked about the very first book on storytelling came out back in 2004, written by Stephen Denning. He called it the secret language of leadership, because
Mm.
those who were doing it beautifully also couldn't decode it for you and say how they were doing it so well. They just said it just naturally comes to them, right?
Yeah.
But as we've got books, right? And in my book as well, we have decoded that language, right? Therefore, it becomes very scalable. And therefore, you can predict whether you will be successful or not if you communicate like this. So we don't have to play a guess game anymore, because there are tested and tried methods. And we have, kind of framed them in the book for you. Do this in a situation like this. Here's an example of how it was done, and here's why it works. So it's backed up by science as well. So now there is a lot of solid literature in place that can actually give people the chance to be successful. They don't have to, kind of do the guess game with storytelling.
Yeah, yeah, which is excellent. Like that's the thing, is we want more people to have this skill set, to be able to develop it, to be more effective, right? In how they go about
Yeah.
doing the work of leadership, of doing the work of persuasion, of making better decisions, driving better outcomes for their teams, for their organizations. So, I mean, that's ultimately what we want, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll just add to whatever you'd said before as well, that I'll give you a small example. Just today, I was working with a leadership team of Asia's number one university.
Mm.
For your listeners who've probably just joined in, I'm based in Singapore, which is a tiny little island in Southeast Asia, and working with the leadership team of Asia's number one university. And we said that people just don't have that skill. But sometimes I think it's not even just about the skill. What it is that when you follow a structure of a story, it forces you to think from the perspective of your audience. But when you just communicate in a logical fashion, often you try to communicate to solve challenges and problems that you think you have, and your audience don't care about your problem. They care about their own problem. Let me give you an example. So we were trying to build a narrative this morning on why we need everybody to do 100% work from office now. We can't have this half work from home and, some days work from home or some days work from the office kind of a thing. Everybody has to come back to work full time, back into the office. Now, I said, okay, if they come back to the office, can you please tell me what is the problem that they have that will be solved if they come back to the office, right? So you think, what is the problem they have? I said, yeah, if you're trying to propose a solution that coming back to the office is what we all need to do moving forward, you have to figure out what is their problem that this will solve. And
Mm-hmm.
they wrote up some points because I forced them to think that way. They wrote up some points and they wrote that the problem is that because they're not working from the office, they don't have team bonding. And I said to
Mm-hmm.
them, is if I tell you you have to come back to work because you're not bonding with your team members, tell me how many people would be excited about that. Do you really think that is a problem? That is a problem they want to solve? They go, no. I said, then what is the problem that they really want to solve? Then they say the problem that we are not efficient in our work practices because somebody's home, somebody's not home, so we can't have proper meetings. I said, is that a problem they think they have, or is that the leader's problem to solve? So when I kept reiterating, finally they came up to the problem that this would solve for them is lack of visibility in the workspace, and that lack of visibility now costing them their career progressions because they're not in the office. And then we were able, that's the problem they're interested in solving. So let's talk about building a narrative around that, solving that problem. So what is the point I'm trying to make? The point I'm trying to make really, John, is this: not only it's a skill issue that some people just don't have the skill, it's just that not unless you think in a story format, you will always approach communication in ways that you will not look at it from your audience's perspective, and you don't tell a story for yourself. You always tell a story for your audience who is listening to you. A narrative structure puts you in the guardrails of look at it from your audience perspective, and you can't escape that. In normal communication, everyone reminds you, think from your audience perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but they
Mm-hmm.
don't have a structure which forces you to do that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm not sure I've ever explicitly thought about it that way. I mean, it makes complete sense, but yeah, absolutely. Think about it from your audience's perspective. Now, obviously, anytime you're presenting, like if I'm presenting in a boardroom or if I'm presenting at a conference or anything, I'm always thinking you're always supposed to think, who is your audience? Present to your audience. Like that's something some people always tell you. But I don't know, something about the way you just said that put a really fine point on make sure that you're always considering your audience's perspective in terms of like, what problem are you trying to solve for your audience, in a way that's a little bit more precise, maybe than how I've really thought about it before. So that's really helpful. I think you're absolutely right. Like we always I think leaders often get stuck in the trap of thinking they've been in meetings. Like if I'm an executive team, I've been in meetings, I've been sitting around the table, we've been talking about things ad nauseum. Oftentimes we've been in multiple meetings over an extended period of time. We've made decisions in our minds. We know why. We know all the backstory. We know all of the all the alternatives that have been discussed. We know all these things, right? And then we go and we talk to our teams or we talk to the middle managers or whatever, and then we present, the decisions, or we present whatever we decide needs to happen. And we just like assume that it's all just going to make complete sense to them, in the same way that it makes complete sense to us. And instead of telling a compelling story about it in the way you were just describing, like what problem are we solving for them? Or like how is it going to make sense to them? Instead of doing that, we just assume that it's going to make complete sense to them, right? And I think that's
100%.
why change management so often fails within organizations. One of the reasons, anyways, is because we are so bad at telling compelling stories about what is happening and the why behind it and the problems that we're solving, in a way that resonates and matters to the people that are going to be impacted by whatever we're doing, whatever we're changing, whatever policy or system is shifting, whatever. And so, yeah, how you just explain that, I think makes all the difference in the world. And it's a complete mindset shift in the mind of the communicator, in the mind of the leader, who now has to keep laser focus on how they're communicating that.
100%. You're absolutely right. And this advocacy around know your audience has been there for so long, but do we really know our audience, right? Like, I'll give you one little example, another one, which is rather interesting to me. So one time I worked in this semiconductor factory where the factory head said that we're going to make our factory a smart factory, essentially, which means is that we're going to have a lot of automation and robotics and stuff like that. And we're going to get 5,000 people who work in this factory to help us make the factory a smart factory. And I said, why would these people be interested in making a factory a smart factory? Because that would mean that they'll have to say goodbye to their jobs. And he says, well, we need to increase the productivity. And the only way we can increase productivity is to get robots and machines and automation to happen. And I said, yes, I agree with that. That is what the organization wants, to increase productivity, to make more products, right? To increase the volume of the product, because the demand for semiconductors increase. So you have bigger demand to fulfill. So you increase the amount of product. But why should people who work on the ground be excited about you as an organization making more product? Which employee gets excited about that? And you need them to help you turn the factory into a smart factory. You know how we changed that proposition? We changed that narrative's proposition by saying this. We said this factory has an opportunity for you to become the supervisors of robots. Would you like to learn how to be supervisors of robots? No, this thing, we want to increase productivity and all. And then we explain to them that how being a part of turning the factory into a smart factory gives them the opportunity to learn the skills that would make them supervisors of robots. And then you should see the way the willingness to want to do that, how it actually changed. Because we just assume at the leadership level that organizational goals are also very, very interesting to our employees. The truth is, nobody wants goals. What they want is a nudge to a new identity. So if you think of this book by James Clear, Atomic Habits, in which he actually says that, it's not the goals, but it's the identity. For example, running a marathon is a goal, but marathoner is the identity. Writing a book is a goal, but author is the identity. Individuals seek new identities. And I sort of then said, okay, supervisors of robots is the new identity for these people. And at the end of this narrative development, narrative delivery by the senior most person in the organization, we asked people to join a roadshow, which was being designed to teach them how to create these smart initiatives, be a part of these smart initiatives. And the increase in the number of people who were then a part of the roadshow was significantly higher than when our proposition was, we want to increase the productivity of the factory. They don't care. What they care about is what do they become as a result of being, following those goals that you actually have asked them to. And so what's the nudge to the new identity?
Anjali, this has just been a really great conversation. I know we've only scratched the surface, but that's why you have a great book that people can go out and buy and learn a whole bunch more about all of this. Before we wrap things up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, where they can find your book, and then give us the final word for today.
Okay, well, you can find me. I'm on all social platforms. So I'm on LinkedIn, also on Instagram. Then also, if anybody follows TikTok, I'm on TikTok too, Anjali Stories. And on LinkedIn, you can just go look up Anjali Sharma. Otherwise, website www.narrative.com.sg. These are the places to find the work that I do. I show up quite regularly on social platforms with educational tips on what I'm learning about storytelling, lots of videos. So you can find more about my work and what I'm up to there with my next projects. In terms of the book is available everywhere on every platform, Amazon, any other platform that you can think of. The book is there. Just type strategic storytelling, Anjali Sharma, and you'll be able to find that. I think the last word for the audience would be this. If you turned up to listen to this podcast and you lasted this long, and you are still with us, that simply means that you are someone who's interested in the nuance of storytelling within the organizational world. And if you are that person, then I think you ought to learn storytelling very specifically for that world. And that world is a very different world to the kind of movie storytelling or documentary storytelling or commercial making storytelling. I think the world of boardrooms, presentations, and negotiations demands a very different kind of story. And if you are from that world and want to be successful in that world, then go check out strategic storytelling.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. This has just been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Anjali can do for you. Check out the book. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, and you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.